You're listening to Shoe In, covering the ins and outs of all things footwear, from sneakers to heels, loafers to slippers, and every type of shoe in between. Brought to you by the FDRA, the Footwear Industries Association focused on retail, trade, politics, and fashion, helping create and enhance conversations on all things footwear. And now your footwear insiders, Matt Priest and Andy Polk.
Welcome back to the Shoe In Show.
Man, you are excited. Let me tell you.
Solutions. That's what this show is all about. Solutions. We can't solve your mental health challenges in this day and age, but we can solve your shoe challenges. That's what this is all about. If you were looking for a mental health solution, find another podcast. Sorry. Can't help you there. Take a pill, close your eyes, maybe
console your
drink a little
scotch.
Exactly. Matt, we're always working with great people and great partners around different aspects of the industry. And I would say one of the biggest things today that people need to think a lot more about and maybe don't consider it as much, but is packaging. And it's because when we were growing up, we go to the store and you would see those orange boxes, those Nike boxes, and all of a sudden the unveiling is something like really interesting. So people, I think, started to think more intelligently about how they do packaging for brick and mortar. But today, everything that we're buying is coming to our doorstep, and some of it is, I may get batteries in like a box that is built for an elephant, and then sometimes I get packages that are ripped open and
drop kicked to your house.
Yeah, literally. And I know who you are, FedEx man, and I'm watching, and I'm gonna get a Zoom. I'll get one of those doorbells, and I'm gonna get you. But really, when we're talking about packaging, it's something successful brands are really focused on it and like really obsessed with it. And then some people are just kind of, okay, what's the cost? And we got to get out of that mentality. We got to think more about value. So when I opened, I said solution. So who's the solution provider today that we're going to discuss packaging with?
Yeah, man. So I want to quote my lovely wife who says that that she is a sucker for packaging, meaning when she goes to a store or does something online, if it comes in a cool package, then she's more likely to buy it. So our next guest, I would suspect, is a lifelong sucker for packaging, and that's Ryan Gaither, who's an international sales executive at BillerudKorsnäs, which is a major global packaging company. Ryan, thank you for joining us. You're a friend. You're engaged with us in a variety of different ways, and having you on the podcast is just another step in the maturation process of our relationship, Ryan. So welcome to the Shoe In Show.
Well, great. Well, thank you so much for having me. I love sitting and talking about packaging, and you're absolutely right. I've been geeking out over it for the last 20 plus years. So
sweet. Well, so Andy talked about all his e-commerce orders. We have the same problem at the Priest household, but one of the things that I've heard you talk about is creating packaging for the e-commerce era. Whether it's an Allbirds box that shows up that has a cool kind of unique experience opening that package, or some others. How is Billerud kind of helping the industry right size its packaging for this slew of e-commerce activity that we're seeing?
I think the message that we're trying to focus on is to really create the product from scratch. This is really a new channel for everyone involved, and that's look at the carton as trying to be as efficient as possible, right? So do we need to change the features? Do we need to change its sizing? Do we need to make it returnable? How do you want to brand it? There's so many different aspects that we look at enhancing or getting rid of altogether, that it's almost like creating a whole new product from scratch.
Yeah, that makes a lot of sense, because no shoe is the same, right? And we were in an era where, if you wind the clocks back, 30 years ago, there was only a certain amount of product. There was only a certain amount of product offerings and differentiation between product. And so we were just shipping a lot of the same kind of packaging. Andy mentioned the orange Nike boxes. Those have been around forever and are really iconic. But at the same time, now that we're in the in 2020, there's so much product. There's so much more differentiation between the styles. There's so much more fragmentation across the industry that you would have to expect that the packaging itself, not just because of e-commerce, but also because of selection, would have to evolve with the movement of trends. So just as there's trends in actual fashion and production and development, there's going to be trends in the packaging space. Is that the best way to look at it?
Yeah, absolutely. I think, as you said, no shoe is the same, and every brand has its own messaging, right? But why is everyone using the exact same box? I think when you look at certain packages that are going out for, like, say, Nike Space Hippie, really great message that's kind of on trend with sustainability. It has an extreme, recycled content look to it. So when you see it, you think, oh, this is, I'm being a responsible consumer here by buying this product. So for the first time, you can see value, or you get instant value perception by the box that the shoe arrives in.
Yeah, I mean, that's a great way to put it, because I think you talked about sustainability, right? And there's different ways to go about this. I've seen your presentations where there's just these images of stacks of cardboard that's now all being shipped to our homes, and then some people are recycling it, some are not, and so there's this prevalence of cardboard that's just inundating the marketplace. But one of my first jobs out of college, I was an account executive selling ads on radio, and they call it selling air, which is a really difficult thing to do. You're just selling.
Did you sell anything?
No, I sold Zippy. I was fired. I was terrible. But
that's why I went into politics, folks.
Exactly. Exactly. But one of the things that's more detrimental to a company, other than having me try to sell your ads online or over the radio, is shipping air. And Andy brought it up about the batteries and the elephant box, which I think is a really good kind of visual to think about how we are now in this really important era where why are we shipping in containers this massive amount of space? So how does Billerud kind of come in and tell its clients, hey, look, this is what we do to kind of move your product so you can stop shipping so much air?
It's been an ongoing battle for as long as I've been with the company, which is going to hit 14 years this October. This message it's lasted because nobody's really taken the time to sit and think of it as an extreme issue. It's been a tolerable issue. So boxes holding a large amount of shoes are going to fluctuate in fit. And how precisely is that dialed in? Well, if it's for the most part halfway dialed in, then fine. The pace of business has me focused on something else. So I really don't want to take the time to sit here and analyze how the cartons fit. And so when we go talk to a brand, oftentimes they know, oh yeah, I get a sense that we're probably shipping a third of a container full of air. I just don't have the bandwidth to deal with it. I think what we're seeing now is with the companies that are kind of coming back online, I think lean and mean is what we're seeing with everyone. So now these are issues that have to be addressed. And I'm starting to hear from brands that efficiency measures are going to be are going to rule the roost coming in 2021. So we're hoping that this long-standing message is really going to start landing on people, not as a nice to have, but as a need to have.
Well, it's got a need to have. As a consumer getting something that, like I said, the batteries in an elephant box, it just makes me upset. It actually diminishes the brand in my eyes. When I get something that's just not optimized, and I just wonder what they're thinking about or what they're doing, right? Like I want the product, but I want it to be, I want things to be optimized in this world. And in the same way with the container, if you talk to a normal consumer and you would say, well, they're shipping 1,000 pairs in this container. They'd be like, wow. They're like, well, they could be shipping 1,200 pairs in this container, and maybe the cost savings would go down to the consumer. They would be like, well, why aren't they doing that? It's a mindset. It's that old mentality pre-COVID where we've always done it this way. And I keep telling people, if you hear that from someone, that's the first person you pull into the office and say, hey, Bob, stop saying that. You're going to get fired. right? Like we can't keep saying that. It's just not gonna cut it anymore.
You're absolutely right. And so that perception of I get something, properly packaged at my door, or did I get something that was offending Mother Nature? And then if it's the latter, you think, well, I'm responsible for that. So now you're kind of putting the onus not just on the brand, but on the consumer too. And that grows exponentially as you get to a younger consumer age, right? So in the 20s and 30s, and then the generations coming after that are going to be more and more focused on that efficiency level, and then what care the brand gives to its products. But what the customer doesn't see is that supply chain, and they don't see the containers, and no one's ever going to see inside a can and know just how how much of an offender a certain brand is going to be. The onus is really now on the brand to tighten up, not just on detail, but on normal supply chain.
There's a return on investment too, Ryan, because right now what we're seeing and what we're talking about, we have our supply chain summit going on this fall. A lot of it is on the rates of shipping, the lack of capacity, how rates are like 2 or 3 times higher than they normally are. And so here you are, if you had right-sized your packaging and stopped shipping as much air, a third of a container, whatever the number is, you might be actually able to ship more product because we have this inventory. We're low in inventory and there's demand that's increasing and we can't get enough. So people are having to airship stuff in. And I just think that you can't wait till stuff's hitting the fan to make these decisions and then try to kind of catch up in an environment that's as hot and heavy and stressful as the one we're in right now.
Yeah. And I kind of feel like it's already hit the fan. And it's the nice to have is one thing, but this is daily cost, right? So you're looking at an immediate way to introduce substantial savings into your daily supply chain spend. And you're right, a lot of the brands that we work with, and we work with brands beyond footwear and apparel, everyone's scrambling for cans right now. The production is just through the roof. So, you think about what the holiday season is going to be like this year, and the e-com spending is going to be through the roof. I think e-com spending, I was reading last night, was up $196 million this last quarter as compared to last year. So if production is going to keep going up, if we're going to continue sitting on our couch thinking, I need to buy shoes so my cat thinks I'm looking good, you really need to take action.
Let me ask you too, Ryan, because I know there's kind of some red flags that are flashing because of like cardboard or pulp supply in China, where they're kind of forbidding this entry of recycled material or basically it's like a large production for these boxes are done in China, and China's changing the way they're allowing imported materials into the country at this point. Is that going to have an impact on supply of packaging, and is that going to have an impact on costs going forward? Where does that stand, and what are we looking at in 2021?
You probably won't have much of an impact on supply, but you will see an impact on cost. I was reading that you're looking at a 10 to 20% increase on exported paper out of the U.S. Going into China. So a lot of that paper goes in the recycled content of footwear cartons. So that impact, that's going to impact a lot of people, because not only is that paper supplied into the paper mills of China, it trickles down into Vietnam, into Cambodia, into Indo. A lot of those countries buy paper from China as well. So it's going to be an across the board shock to the system. So again, now's the time to button up and tighten up your systems.
Yeah, and it sounds like there's really no escaping it, because it's a government policy. It's not like you can all of a sudden figure a switch and figure some way around it. It just is the infrastructure. It's an infrastructure issue. It's an economic issue. It's not a management issue that you're dealing with. And that goes back to what we were talking about. You've got to really start optimizing to cut out that 10 or 20. You got to start trying to shave off where you can, right? And the overall cost.
Yeah. The only way you're getting around that is if you own your own paper mill.
Yeah.
So,
well, let me,
Matt sells air. Maybe he'll start a paper mill.
But I will do this. I'll ask you about trend lines, Ryan. Every once in a while we've seen kind of these trends emerge. Puma a couple of years ago put out like canvas packaging, essentially trying to minimize its packaging. Everyone, there's these things that kind of go along. I think Apple, in all honesty, if we go back to the whole experience of opening something up, Apple has revolutionized kind of the unveiling. Andy talked about the unveiling at the start of this. They've revolutionized the way in which we get a product. I remember when I first bought like a Gateway computer, there was like one whole box of it was just the books that went along with the manuals that I never read and didn't know, and all the discs that went with it. And Apple streamlined all in the tech space, the engagement, where it's like a couple stickers, a really flimsy, little flimsy brochure, and then the product itself. And it was like this unveiling. What are some of the trend lines we're seeing right now? You talked a little bit about it as it relates to e-commerce, but are there broader trend lines in packaging that people need to be aware of, or things or innovative things people are trying that 5 years from now might be the standard?
It's interesting when it comes to footwear packaging because it's hip to be square. Squares and rectangles work as far as holding an array.
Yeah, man.
Did I just date myself?
Ryan Gaither in the news.
You're holding a variety of shaped shoes, right? So the rectangle works really well. And when it comes to stacking in a storeroom or filling out an MOC, they're really efficient. So you see these designs that pop out every 12, 18, 24 months. And this is a triangular box, or this is an octagonal box, or this is a bag, or this is air-filled bladder with a shoe floating in the center. You see them all. And that's what's tough. You're in an era where it's like push innovation, and more of this unique product where it's, no, this thing is kind of tried and true for a reason. We're open to any new concepts, and we're willing to give anything a chance because you want to do something better. But the shoebox outlasts all of the others because of its efficiency and its renewable resource.
Well, when my drone fleet gets off the ground, literally, you're going to need to be doing a lot more hang tags, because I've determined the efficiency for my drone delivery service will be probably the hanging packaging, where you can just put the shoe on and hopefully it doesn't fall in somebody's house on the way out there.
If you're able to design a chute into the carton, so it's a self-landing shoebox, maybe that's the next step.
A parachute? Can you guys put a parachute in my packaging?
Sure. We'll just find a way to pull the tissue out of the box.
There we go.
It'll be an air.
I have visions of like a pair of shoes, a hang tag pair of shoes of Andy Polk brand, like stuck up in a tree, and a kid can't get up to it. He's like looking up.
Yeah. Well, that's why you pay the insurance. You got to pay the insurance on the delivery, just so you have that. Air Polk, everyone. Air Polk.
I would just worry about the neighbor with the pool skimmer reaching over your fence to pick up your pen.
Oh man, you're right. Or the guy with the shotgun down the street.
You thought porch pirates were bad. The Johnny Shotgun's gonna be really bad.
It's a whole level of air aggression. My goodness.
That's right. Parachute pirates.
Oh man. So Ryan, as we kind of wrap up before we bring in Jasmine, one of the things that I think is really important for people to understand is that we're in an era where there's like a slew of packaging, and e-commerce is really important. It's like the engaging with consumers where they are is really important and really key, clearly, for our productivity and our ability to make a profit and to employ people here in the US and elsewhere. So that's all key, but we're also in this era where the stress on the environment is much heavier because we are shipping, we're doing one shipment here, a lot of air freight, a lot of packaging. So I want you to kind of give the BillerudKorsnäs, elevator speech about why partnering with you guys is so important in an era with so much packaging, because you are an accredited organization, European based, which means just just by happenstance makes you more sustainable. And just kind of walk us through your bona fides so that people have an understanding as if they engage with you, they're really helping to kind of creatively think through ways to, again, increase productivity and ship products to people and employ people, but also minimize the impact on the environment.
Sure. Our company got started in the late 90s supplying virgin fiber paper into China, and then working with a couple brands to supply paper for packaging. Somebody said, well, hey, can you help us source some packaging here in region? And in doing so, we found really poor quality paper, and we found a niche for us to fill of supplying and sourcing higher quality paper content so that shoeboxes had a better chance of making it through the supply chain. And now 20 years later, we've expanded beyond all of these different industries, from apparel to electronics to toys and barbecues, and from flip-flops to laptops, you name it. And in the midst of that 20 years of growth, we were purchased by a Swedish paper giant named BillerudKorsnäs, which allows us a unique access to virgin fiber Scandinavian papers that we can implement into the China supply stream when it makes sense. But what I would say to brands that are out there, even the brands are of every level of sophistication. And there's some brands that say, let my agent in Asia take care of it, or let the factory source it for me, or no, I've got my own team and we're doing it ourselves. Thank you very much. What I say to that is your specialty and your focus is your products. Our specialty and our focus is the packaging. And I think even when somebody thinks they've got it dialed in, 90% of the time they don't. There's always an opportunity for doing better. And we're the people that will help you get you there.
That's perfect. You mentioned the word sophistication. The one person that instantly makes this program more sophisticated is Jasmine Pendergrass. And so I want to welcome in Jasmine, who's going to walk us through her world famous, globally dominant fashion, footwear, and focus segment. Jasmine, welcome back to the program. Glad you are here. Hit us up with your sophisticated and fashionable focus, if you will. No pressure.
No pressure. No pressure.
That is a ton of pressure, but I'm going to do my best. I've been, of course, everybody has been following the election and all the intricate details behind that. But the lighter part of it is like the fashions while people are campaigning. And Kamala has been in the news for her footwear choice pretty often here. And she's been wearing some very classic kicks. Of course, like the Converse was the first shoe that she wore that got a lot of publicity. And then she ended up wearing some Timbs right after that, some Timberlands, so which are both members of FDRA. But I was just curious. They were saying that, because Kamala is wearing these Timberlands, she has brought the brand back. And I didn't think that. I thought the brand was still here and still thriving. So I was just wondering, do you guys pick up Timberlands during the winter? Is that like a sneaker of your choice? And if not, like, what's your go-to winter sneaker?
That's a good question. And it's funny, like Timberland has not been brought back. That just means uncool political commentators see what she's wearing and then, oh, wait, Timberlands are still around. But I do think it's cool she's sporting some of these shoes because it just kind of grounds her with everyday people. And that Senator Patty Murray of Washington was the mom in sneakers. That was her whole campaign. And I think that it's just kind of a really good way of connecting. But as far as winter boots or sneakers, I like the sneaker boot to combine the two. And I've got a pair of Merrells that have got like a sneaker outsole. They're lined with like a fur inside, and they're my favorite. I picked them up. They were a sample up against the wall at Wolverine. And when I was there at the headquarters, I picked up, and they happened to be a 12, and I love them. So that's what I go with.
They sound comfortable.
Ryan,
what about you?
Yeah, Ryan, what about you, buddy?
Well, believe it or not, I have a pair of black Uggs that I got when I was 18. So that's my just around the house, and maybe a store, maybe a 2-stop chore drive. But I would say last winter I picked up a pair of Danner boots, and they were super comfy. My problem is, even though they're hiking boots, I can't bring myself to go take them out in the mud and go slosh around.
Yeah,
they're
nice.
too nice.
Yeah. Did you wear those Uggs as you listen to Huey Lewis on the news?
Yeah. Them or, listening to Vandals or some other 80s, 90s SoCal punk band. I think I was listening to a band called Anarchy Jurisdiction.
It's like an oxymoron.
Oh, yeah. Okay. I don't know what that is, but all right. It sounds like a boot with, like spikes around it. So cool.
Just big black fuzzy slippers.
I think we should do like a political shoe power rankings and like go out and ask politicians what they're wearing or observe what they're wearing and like rank them.
It wouldn't be pretty. It wouldn't be pretty.
Yeah, and say like who's the well, it'd be like, well, you would get a top 10, right? You don't have to do all of them, but you could do a top 10 in politics that are like super on trend, right? And award them, some footwear award for being on trend or something like that. And maybe it would no one else cares but us. But or
I would be curious of like the top brand though. Even if it's not so much like the style of the shoe, I wonder what the go-to brand is. So that would
Johnston and Murphy or Bostonian. There you go. We're done.
Well, I definitely think there's a difference between them on Capitol Hill or in DC and then back in their districts. Because I saw AOC the other day that had a picture of her in Birkenstocks as she was shopping. So there's like it's like the difference between button down, going to the floor to vote in leather or high heels or whatever, leather shoes or high heels versus going home and doing like everybody, like just like us, like, we're wearing slippers around, we're wearing Uggs, we're wearing comfy shoes. So I think that's just the difference between the two. I don't know, but it would be interesting to see for sure. We could do a survey. Maybe. Ooh. I don't know. Anyway. Another brainstorm. Ryan, thank you very much for joining us today. Really appreciate it.
Absolutely. So great to hang out with you guys again. Thanks for having me.
Absolutely. And Ryan joins us on many of our events after he puts on and provides really thoughtful commentary on packaging issues, just like we talked about today. So it behooves you, if you haven't given much thought to it, shame on you. Please contact Ryan and talk to him about what's going on, what your current plans are, how your current supply chain looks, and let them help you optimize it, because as he said, your costs are going to go up. It's an economic issue. There's not much you can do around it except for shaving off those percents elsewhere around packaging optimization. So I think, great conversation. We started out with solutions. I think we got a lot. And that's what this show's all about. We appreciate everyone listening. If you have an idea for a show topic or a speaker, drop us a line, shoeandshow.com. We've got over 200 and something episodes in our library. Please go back and give those a listen as you think about new ideas to transform your business operations. So on behalf of Matt and Jasmine and Ryan, we really appreciate you listening to this episode, and Shoe In is out.
Shoe In has been brought to you by the FDRA, the Footwear Industries Association focused on retail, trade, politics, and fashion, helping create and enhance conversations on all things footwear. For information about FDRA, visit fdra.org.